There we go. Well, yeah. Sorry about that. I thought I was streaming for the last hour. Turns out I wasn't. Okay. Well, I will post a recording of what I streamed earlier later on this channel. Sorry about that. So essentially what I've done is I've taken some demo code from a logging talk that I gave at Tech Bash, and which is essentially this web API, and now I'm adding in some RabbitMQ handling to this. So I added this .NET Aspire app host, although I'm not using it. I'm not using most of .NET Aspire. I'm really just using it as a replacement for Docker Compose at this point, which I'm happy enough with. And yeah, so I've gotten the web API going and it's also being orchestrated by the app host. So when I hit start, it starts all the local services for me, and I just now added this worker service. Again, I apologize. I thought I was live streaming, but apparently I had to click one more button. um, so, fortunately, I was recording, so I will post the recording later. But if anyone has any questions as we go along, feel free to use the chat. Jump in there. Questions about anything? It's all good. All right, so let's. I just added this worker service, and it asked me if I wanted to add it to the .NET Aspire orchestration. I said yes. So I think it just added a project reference, and yeah, and added that that one line of code, which is exactly what I would have done anyway. So perfect. All right. So that is what I wanted, and now I'm. By the way, like half of my stream so far has been like me figuring out how to do stuff in .NET Aspire, because I'm not that great at .NET Aspire yet. Okay, so I just added this worker service, which is going to consume the queue now. Okay, do I want this? Maybe not. Because in my web API, I'm using some of the service defaults. I'm using configure open telemetry. I think that's probably all I want, actually. I'm going to do the same thing over here. So I'm going to do configure open telemetry. And I'm going to add the open telemetry exporter, just like I do over here. So this is me using parts of the .NET Aspire defaults, but it's really just the open telemetry parts. I don't want to make this like an open or a .NET Aspire worker service. Okay. We add the worker, we build and run. That looks good. In the worker, we have, it does nothing right now, which is fine. All right. But now when I start my .NET Aspire orchestrator, it should kick off the API and the worker, as well as the RabbitMQ Docker container to sit in between them. And boom. Okay. Right. Okay, so I did run into this on the web API as well. So what's happening is there's the orchestrator itself is like adding some defaults that it wants to use. It wants its own OTLP telemetry, and what I'm doing is I'm actually turning that off. I'm bypassing that because I'm running my own Docker Compose container to get all the open telemetry data. So I specifically do not want that stuff going to the .NET Aspire dashboard. And so to fix that is up in this orchestrator, and I just have to change this to be more like this. So I'm taking this worker service, and I'm naming it worker service, and that's it. And I'm not adding in the hosting defaults there. Now I believe this will work. And there it is. Alright, so now we've got the worker service, our API, and a RabbitMQ just sitting in between them. I don't know if the logs here will work. These are console logs. Seems like they were working. Okay, they're working for the queue, pulling them from the Docker container, but not actually for my apps, which is fine. So like I said, this dashboard, we're not going to see any structured logs in here, or traces, or metrics, or anything, because I'm actually bypassing the Open Telemetry part of this. And instead, I am going to my own little local telemetry system. This is a repository that's available on GitHub, and it's got a bunch of different dashboards, so you can compare them and stuff. So I actually have the Aspire dashboard as part of this, as well as a bunch of other dashboards. I've been looking at Seek a lot in here. Oh, yeah, the worker's running. Okay. So the worker's definitely talking to my OpenTelemetry endpoint, as well as all the rest of this. That all looks good. Okay, so now, next step is, let's get that worker processing that queue, shall we? And, again, it has been a long time since I've actually written directly to the RabbitMQ client API. We'll see what this looks like. What I would really love is just like, give me an asynchronous stream of everything coming off of this queue. But I don't think that it supports that. Let's see what it does support. So, okay, so I'm looking at the Hello World tutorial in RabbitMQ because it's been that long since I've used the client directly. Alright, so it does a publish, yep, fine. And then receiving, you declare the queue again, and we have the standard connection and model. Okay. The eventing basic consumer, man, I thought that was old like 10 years ago. There's nothing newer? Okay. It'll be fine for demo. It's just not great. Okay. We can do that. That's fine. That's fine. It's alright. I'll survive. I'll be okay. Okay. Alright. So essentially what we want to do is take this code, really, and we'll massage it a bit, but we're going to essentially do the same thing right in here. Oh, actually, I'm sorry. We don't want to do it in here. We want to do it in our execute async. Okay. So we do have a stopping token. Okay. Since this is an eventing basic consumer, really what I want is a consumer that translates it into an an async stream. That'd be awesome. Maybe one of these days I'll just write my own RabbitMQ client. I don't like any of the decisions that they made with theirs, honestly. Okay. So this is going to be similar to our queue service up here. We are creating connection, creating a model. Our queue name is weather control request, and again, magic strings. I'm just copying this for now. It'll be okay. Except that we do want this durable. And then we can log this, sure. Sounds good. You're not really waiting until down here, are you? So I'm just going to move that down. Okay. And this is going to, yeah. Okay. Just grab the array. Okay. I'm not gonna fix it. I'm gonna use it as is. And then we're going to convert this into JSON. I can spell. And this is going to be system text JSON. So this is a, yeah, thank you. Perfect, not quite. What do I want here? You know, we really should be using DTOs with our messages. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and add that because it's just the right thing to do. So I'm gonna add a new project, which is just gonna be a library, class library. Thank you. And this is going to be messages. And these are going to represent the messages that go into our queues and the other stuff about the queues. So why do you do it that way? All right. And actually, let's use records. Do records serialize JSON well? I think so. Let me check. Oops. Jump into my C# here. So if I say I have a public sealed record class, and I say JSON serializer. No, okay. System text JSON serializer. Serialize a new test, and this is going to be 13 to 7. Sure. What does that look like? You can give me anything. Okay. Yeah, looks like it serializes just fine. Okay. So in that case, I'm just going to use my my records. What did I say? Sealed record class. This is going to be a weather forecast request. Yes, that is what I want. And then I'm going to, let's rename this to sure. And then one other. Okay. Cool. I see some chats now. Again, I'm sorry. I started this stream like an hour late because I've been talking to myself the entire time. Okay. We're going to have some constants in here. Constants. Alright. Why do you do this to me? The defaults are never what I want. Okay. So this is going to be static. And I'm just going to put my queue name in here. Yeah, let's make it a const string. That's a good idea. Weather control request. Because the weather controller is retrieving weather forecasts, which are actually just made up. The queue is for issuing a weather control request, so you can set the future weather of a future day, which may as well be silly. Okay, so that looks good. I'm going to refactor to use this now. Because both the producer here. Okay, what GitHub repo were you using for the Open Telemetry dashboards? So that one is in Stephen Clary local telemetry. And what this repository does is it's just like a Docker Compose file and some like helper things that set up several different dashboards. And yeah, you just clone it, run Docker Compose up, and it gives you one OTLP endpoint local on your machine. Whatever you send to that is sent to all these different dashboards. So that's what I'm using instead of the .NET Aspire built-in dashboard. Although the .NET Aspire dashboard is one of the dashboards that my local telemetry sends it to. All right, and I just ran that at the beginning of this stream, which none of you were here for. Sorry again. I just ran Docker Compose up here, and it's just been running in the background the whole time. Okay, so back to the code. Right on. So I'm refactoring to use this. So now we are not going to hard code this queue name anymore. Instead, I want constants. That's the wrong thing. Okay. Messages. Constants. Constants may not have been the best name. Sure. But I'm not going to change it now. So we're no longer hard coding this queue name. And I no longer want a anonymous object here. Instead, I want a weather control request message, which is now taking its parameters like that. There. Although really, what I want is to pass it in here, don't I? Yeah. Just to make that a little bit cleaner of an interface. And then we just serialize this. Okay, that looks good. Alright, now I also want to add the same project to the consumer, and then in my worker class, I'm going to again remove this, remove this hard-coded queue name, and say messages.constants. Weather control request queue. Alright. And now, when I'm deserializing here, I can deserialize it to the proper type. The weather forecast request. Now look at the scope. Yeah. Okay. So, back to where we were. Aaron says, we use Datadog and are looking at replacing it with an open source solution. I don't know of a good open source solution for Datadog, actually. So there's several different parts of Open Telemetry. Yeah. I mean, you could say like Grafana and Prometheus, which are in the local telemetry repo that I have, but they don't have any dashboards built in. I mean, I'm sure there are other things out there, but it's actually kind of a hard space. And Datadog is kind of, if you look at, all their support for different alerting and dashboards and things, they really are kind of a first-in-class solution. But yeah, good luck. If you do find anything, let me know. We used to use Datadog, and now we just use like now we use really it's just application insights, which works, but it's not as nice to use. I'll say that. Okay. So here in my consumer, I've declared the queue. We create the actual consumer, and then whenever it receives a message, we decode it, and we just write out something in the console. Logging right now is just fine. So we're going to say received weather control request for date and temperature. Oh, okay, sorry. It's a JSON. JSON.date and JSON.temperature. Not really JSON at this point, actually. That can be null? Really? Weird. We're not dealing with poison queues or anything either here yet. Um, there. Okay. Another thing that's like, yeah, if you, all of the RabbitMQ wrappers that we have at our company they have a lot of error handling that the default RabbitMQ client just doesn't have a lot of. Okay, and then we say watch this queue, and every time this queue gets a message, acknowledge it, and auto act. Oh, yeah, that's another thing you don't really want to do, but fine. It's fine. How much of this should I change to make it better? Okay, and then when this gets down here, then we're just going to say, yes, actually that is what I want. Not the rest of that. I don't know what this is. Get out of here. Wow, that's terrible. Alright, that's all I wanted right there. We're just gonna sit here and wait until till we're requested to stop. I think this should work. Let's hit play and see what happens. Guess it's not gonna work. Alright. Has anyone ever clicked yes on that dialog? Anyway. Okay, oh right, because this is a wrapped in an actual message now. Okay. We're starting up. It's going to spin up everything. Now we should have an API. Ooh, nice. None of the specified endpoints were reachable. That's interesting because it's using the same thing as the web API, right? Let me see here. I wonder if I'm starting it too soon, actually. That is a distinct possibility. Isn't there a wait for, or were they adding that? Oh. Because I think we might actually be just starting it up too soon, is my guess. .NET Aspire wait for. Wait for dependencies, yes. There's a with health check. Wait for DB, wait for... Okay. That might work. Can I add a health check to that? Not entirely sure because I've kind of modified it. There's no health check in there. This must be inside of David Fowler's code here. Yeah. Okay. See how hard is this? How hard is this going to be to do here? Okay, so that does look built in. Alright. I think .NET Aspire in version 9 is adding this, like, out of the box, which would be really nice. Okay. We can just steal this code in the meantime. Alright. Thank you, David Fowler. That's the name of my class. Alright. Let's just, okay, what do we got? There's no health check annotation. No RabbitMQ health check. Okay. I thought that was in there. Alright, what am I missing here? Because it's not seeing this. But it's not defined in this project. So where is it? No. What word? Okay. It is in a separate... It's in a separate repository, it looks like. Okay. Fine. Maybe the health check annotation is also Aspire 9. That is entirely possible. Boogit has been... Oh, I don't even see the link over here now. Oop. Alright. Just wondering if that... Yeah, I'll just add it. See if it's in here. If not... If not... If not, I might hack something in for now. I don't really want to use pre-release code. So let's just install this and see if that resolves. Okay. Gotta grab it. Okay, sweet. It was over there. Health check annotation, though, is not. I think that might be a .NET 9 Aspire thing. Okay. Yes, yes, yes. Custom health checks. Here we go. Should... Okay. Okay, so I don't know what this is then. Health check annotation seems undefined. It is under aspire.hosting. Under an unshipped API file. Yes. So, aren't there 9.0 preview NuGet packages? Yes, there are. Yeah, I was just trying to avoid them, but I guess we can't. So, all right. So let's take. Actually, I think it's just this app host that would need the pre-release packages. There's no pre-release for RabbitMQ. Okay. Oh, here we go. Okay. I think they might have them behind a separate feed. Is what's going on here. And you know what? At this point, I'm just gonna drop that. Sorry. We will not do it that way. This is just an orchestrator. It's fine. So, sorry. I thank you, David Fowler, is getting deleted. Okay. Instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the massive hack here. Thread.sleep. Give me 10 seconds here. Right. Wait, I'm going to put in a hack. Wait for RabbitMQ. In .NET 9, the Aspire host can do this. Okay, let's see if that works. So it should start everything up. And pop over to my dashboard. Seriously? Okay. I'm just gonna add in a, this might be an equal hack, but okay, actually, you know what? What? I'm gonna write some code that I'm gonna hate myself for next year, but this is how it goes. Okay, so this is a broker unreachable exception. That sounds catchable. Broker unreachable exception. Got it. That one. Alright, so what we're going to do, as horrible as this sounds, all we need out of here is, oh well, we need the connection and the channel because they're both disposable. Another design. Yeah, anyway. Okay, time to add some poly here. I'm just gonna add poly. And poly. Yes. What I'm planning is a try-catch, but I actually want a whole bunch of try-catches. Because I don't know how long it'll take. Apparently like 10 seconds or so. So I haven't actually used poly since they went to pipelines, so let me check the poly docs. In case you're not aware, the last major version of poly like added a whole new API, which is much better. But the old API is still like supported if your code still uses it, but I just want to do it with the new options, or with the new API here. Okay, so we've got a retry strategy, build the pipeline, and then execute it, right? I think that's it. Here's my getting started here. Hey, you guys, give me one getting started code. There we go. Okay, thank you. Alright, this is perfect. So I want retries with, you know, probably a minute timeout. We'll do that. Alright, and then you execute it. So, and okay, does it just? I'm not sure if this is. Does it catch all exceptions by default now? Ah, that's not useful. Okay, so I think they use like the better jitter and stuff like that by default all now. I'm not going to worry about that. Um, okay, and I think oh yeah, there's a should handle in here. What is a default should handle? I don't know. Well, we'll see. I think that'll work. I think it'll just automatically retry everything. I'm going to say for minutes. If it doesn't actually succeed, oops, in connecting within a minute, then go ahead and throw. And then I'm going to take all of this into here. So I guess we don't need that broker unreachable exception. That's only with like the old poly style. Okay. And I don't think that I'm actually going to even use that token, am I? Okay, whatever. Okay. Sure. Doesn't matter. Aspire may add a password to the RabbitMQ connection. Yeah. Thank you, Alex. I did remove that earlier, and it adds it to the management dashboard. I don't think it adds it to the connection. I could be wrong, but I am actually like overriding that with these up here. Sorry, I discovered that earlier in the stream. Not something I was aware of when I started using it. Yes, it adds a random password by default. Okay, so I want to return the connection and the channel, and this is no longer using in here. Can I do a using bar like that? I do this. I'm not sure. Okay, no you cannot. Alright. It'd be nice to deconstruct that and also have it in the using scope, but whatever. That, I want this. I really wish we had, I really wish this was less complicated. That's some ugly code right there. Because they won't, yeah. I've requested this from the C# language team, like, I don't know, every year for years now. So, no, really, we want to just say, you know, using whatever, and not essentially do this. Using connection. But we can't do that. So, you have to declare a variable. Alright. So, this looks okay. That should give us some retries here for connecting to RabbitMQ. Oh, I didn't copy over my hack comment. Temporary hack until .NET Aspire 9 lets us wait for dependencies in the orchestrator. Alright, see if that works. Huh. Oh, yeah, right, yeah. It would start running right away. Okay. So it started running right away. May or may not connect to RabbitMQ. Let's see here. RabbitMQ's up. And let's check our queues. There are no queues. It should... Our consumer should create one. Okay, so let's see what's going on here. Okay, here we go. It did not work. Did it? Yeah, 952. So that is from this one. Background service failed. Broker and reachable. It looks like Polly didn't retry it because it's starting up at 5 seconds later it shuts down. Or 20 seconds later, 15 seconds later. Anyway, not a minute anyway. Alright, so apparently we do have to use the broker and reachable exception. Tell Polly to actually explicitly handle that. That's fine. Alright, so that would be in here. And what am I looking at? I want the should handle. Should it be retried? Ooh, good, okay. I don't know what this is then. This should handle is a retry predicate arguments. So let's see. Args, what is this going to be? Args dot. Got our context, outcome. It's probably outcome. Outcome exception. Yes. Okay, that's what we want right there. Yeah, let's give that a shot. Here we go. I guess we can jump over to our logs right away. Let's just stream this. Keep it going. Alright. And there goes switching again. Why? Broker and reachable exception. But it was less than a minute later. Ah, Alicio says, I love you, your idea about message framing saved me. You're welcome. Yes, that was something I learned the hard way many years ago. Okay, so what's going on here? Seems like we're not getting... Polly isn't doing any retries for some reason. What's going on here, Polly? You not working for me? Got a timeout of a minute. Guess that this is 5 minutes, just to be absolutely sure. And it's throwing an exception. Why wouldn't that work? I don't know. The default is a delegate that retries on any exception except operation cancelled exception. Yeah, so that actually should have worked without me setting it. Okay. So it seems as though it's choosing not to retry. But why not? But 20 seconds later, then it throws. I don't know. Why isn't this working? Polly, I thought you would be useful here. We are retrying it. What happens if I just run the worker service? And put a breakpoint there. Now RabbitMQ is not running in this case. It's always going to fail. It's going to try to connect to the thing. Okay, it's running it again. I wonder if we're hitting like a maximum retry before the timeout. Seems likely though. It is happening. Okay. It's only retrying like 3 times, isn't it? That's what the defaults say. I want to change that. Okay. That's what's happening. We're not hitting this timeout. We are in fact hitting some kind of limit in the default poly options. So let's see here. Max retry attempts. Doesn't tell me what the default is, but I'm betting that it is betting that it is 3 from what I observed there. Oh, Aaron says the default is 3. Yes, alright. Thank you, Aaron. That is what I guessed. Alright, so now let's switch back to the app host. I think we were just retrying too quickly because it is localhost, so it's a pretty fast. Oh no, it's not there. Yeah. So now it'll just keep on retrying until it fails or until a minute passes. Okay, 10 o'clock already. So I'm going to jump back over to my seek logging here. It is running. We're just going to see if it connects or not. Oh, waiting for messages. Okay, so it was actually able to connect to RabbitMQ. That was the problem that we suspected. It just was trying to start too quickly. So it logs the waiting for messages, which means that it did get down all the way down here. So it's connected. It's hooked up the receiver, and it says, "Wow, int max value is so expensive." Well, this is local only. All right. And it's really just like polling that health endpoint. It's essentially the same thing. Okay, so now we have a proper orchestration going on, and we should have a queue automatically created also. So if I jump over here to my RabbitMQ dashboard, which is always on a different port, so it never remembers my my password. That's why it's not remembering it. Okay. Thank you for that. All right. And yes, so now the consumer has created the queue this time. We can observe this queue. Consumers connected, looks good. If I come over to, yeah, so we've got a web API also. So not the actual weather forecast. I want my fake weather forecast. Thank you. So here's how I get the fake weather forecast. I can post a request for the future. Now this one should actually fail because I'm not giving it any parameters. Yes. Boom. Continue. And it says, no, you get a 500 back. Bad. Okay. but if I set the date to tomorrow, and I set the temperature to let's say okay, so I'm in Fahrenheit here, so I'm going to say 77. Hey, that one worked. All right, and that should have posted a message to the queue, which, let me just check our queue here. Do we see it? Yep. Here's your message. And it was consumed already. And if we pop over to our logging, we published the weather request, and then we received the weather request. Perfect. All right. Like that. Okay. So, now, what I want to actually observe is the... Oh. Get back to my dashboard. I want to observe the traces, and I want to see how different things handle this. So this is the .NET Aspire dashboard. This is not the one from the orchestrator. This is the one behind my local telemetry. So this is the one that's getting all the telemetry information, but it doesn't have the resource information. So like the orchestrator one has, where did that go? Yeah. So the orchestrator dashboard has, oh, here's your resources, and oh, if you want to look at your queue logs and stuff, you know, they're here. This is your RabbitMQ console logs. You know, it's got that kind of stuff that it orchestrates. And then this one here is behind my Open Telemetry collector, so it's only getting telemetry. That's why there's no resources tab over here. But it does get, yeah, structured logs. Excuse me. Not near the top here. Alright, so... Or wait, we want to be near the bottom, don't we? My bad. There. Okay. So yeah, we published the weather request, and then we received a weather request. Now this publishing weather request has a trace on it. The received weather request does not, and that's what I want to fix here. So if I click into this trace, you say, oh yeah, here's your post, and it got... Yeah. So this is the post that was received by Web API. What it doesn't show is there a way to see all the traces? There was. Yeah, here we go. Right on. So here's the post that I sent without the data. That's why there's an error there. And then here's the post that did have the data. And there's nothing from the backend. So I want to change that and show, like, here's a standard way to do to link spans, and I also want to create a span. So let's do that first, actually. Okay, so what we want to do... Actually, you know what? There's some great sample code that I'm going to steal for this. Just have to remember where exactly it is. Start closing out all this stuff, because we solved all these. Alright. X, 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 X. Alright. Leave that open. Oh, and sorry, the repository that I'm working in today is Stephen Clary Examples.NET Telemetry. And I haven't actually pushed the code I'm working on yet. Actually, good point to do that. Let's do this. Add worker service. And let's just go ahead and push that. Push straight to main. Who cares? Woohoo! Alright. I want to... What was I going to look up? Right. So there's an OpenTelemetry.NET example with RabbitMQ showing how to attach baggage. And I think it has its own processing span too, so let's take a look at that. .NET... Oh, you know what? Hold on. That is actually a link for my slides. Let me go to TechBash. Yes. So in TechBash, I've got my Become a Logging Hero talk, Well, it's PowerPoint, yeah. Okay, I'll just have to download it. And if I open this up, at the end of my slides, for sake of time, was not able to actually do this, but here it is. This link will take us to that sample code. Thank you, PowerPoint. So, in this sample code, we have a Web API worker service, very similar to what I've just done. And this is like kind of like what I've been working towards. And in here, okay, that doesn't really do anything. Okay, all right. Not entirely sure. Oh, I think that a lot of this stuff is actually in shared code. Okay. I'm remembering now as I'm looking at this. Okay, so we've got the message receiver here. Yes, perfect. Okay, so they are doing an activity source, which is what we want to do also. And then essentially have this start activity. So what this is going to do is what you're doing here is you're creating a span. So this is the way that you create an Open Telemetry span in .NET. And most of the time you don't have to worry about that because the like if you're doing ASP.NET, the ASP.NET does spans for you. HTTP client has spans for you. So a lot of .NET, even like the Redis MQ client, the one that everyone uses from Stack Exchange, the MySQL client, the one everyone uses from Bradley, these all have like spans built in these days. So so you usually don't even have to do anything other than just say, yeah, turn on this telemetry collection and send it to this collector, and that's literally all you have to do in your ASP.NET apps, which is super nice. In this case, we have a worker service console app. It does not have that built in. I mean, it can still do like it would still do HTTP spans and stuff like that if you're using HTTP client or MySQL spans, which we're going to add in a bit, or even I think even RabbitMQ. I'm not sure if RabbitMQ does or not. Anyway, but the like any other spans, like I'm now processing this message, is usually one that you want to add to a consuming application, and that's what we're doing. That's what they're doing right here. So we're going to add that first, and then we're going to do and then we're going to link the spans once we have this working. Okay, so here we go. All right, so we're going to need an activity source for sure. Yeah, and then just use the right. Yes. So there are some good documentation here on what your spans should be named. I'm going to steal that too. Okay. All right. So we need an activity source first. This will be this is one-time creation. Sure. That'll work. And then when we go to actually process a message, so every time one is received, we're just going to have a using var activity. And we're going to start the activity, and this isn't actually the proper name for a queue processor. As I say, what you actually want to do is use the queue name and then this receive, because of this right here. So this is just like a naming convention for your stance, okay, that OpenTelemetry publishes. So let's go ahead and do that. Oops, don't do that. Receive. And actually, we should have a span for a send also, but I have not done that yet. Okay, so we're going to create a span for receiving it. And let's see. Actually, let's just do this. Oh, wait. Sorry. We also have to turn on this thing. So, we need to, because right now we're going to generate these activities, but nothing's listening for them. What we need to do is come back over here. This configure open telemetry turns on a bunch of these. So you can say, oh, add ASP.NET Core, add HTTP client, add runtime instrumentation. This is including things like how many garbage collections do you do and that kind of stuff. And we are looking at tracing here. Tracing is what covers the activity or the spans. And this is what it turns on by default, which is fine. And if you look at like what the HTTP client one does, it really just okay, there it is. All right. So it adds the source for the HTTP client activity source name. Okay, that's not a bad idea to actually say, here's the actual name and kind of like publish that. I think I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that. I'm going to do the same thing. So this is going to be like a public, no, const string. Activity source name. Yes, thank you. And then we'll use that here. And then what we can do is, so after we configure the open telemetry, we can also say for our spans or our traces, right? I thought that was in there. Yeah. Metrics, is it? Metrics. I see metrics, I see logging, I don't see my traces. Okay. Time to jump back in here and see how they did it. Okay, so it is, oh, it's add open telemetry. Right, that's what you have to do. Not bad. Because there's, yeah, other things. So I'm going to add open telemetry again. Or not, is it under services maybe? Nope, okay. Add open telemetry. You can add this multiple times. So configure open telemetry also adds it, but that's fine. And then we're going to do with tracing. And here we are. Need to pass a delegate there? Probably. Yes. Okay. Alright. And tracing is going to... Oops, that's not what I mean. Not... Stop it. Stop code completing on my tab. I don't want you to. Tracing dot add source, and this is going to be our worker dot activity source name. Alright. That just looks terrible. Okay. Alright. So, no other chat messages yet. I do have to call this in about 15 minutes. Sorry, I will again post the full recording later for the first hour when I talked to myself, wondering where everyone was. Okay, so I'm taking all the essentially this is configure open telemetry is like the .NET Aspire telemetry defaults, which is what I want. So it turns it on for the runtime, HTTP client, and all that stuff. And then I also want to add in my own tracing from my own worker. And at this point, we should be able to run this and see traces from our worker every time that we request a temperature, temperature control. Yeah, we request tomorrow's temperature. So let's jump back over to our. I'm going to open up Seek again because it gives me a nice flat layout of, yeah, here's everything. Oh, actually, Seek also supports traces, which I am sending traces to Seek here. So we can also take a look at what that looks like. As soon as this says, well, I guess we don't really have to wait for it to be waiting for messages. We just need to send one. But that does let us know that RabbitMQ is ready, because if we try to send it too early, then the web API would fail. There's no retries over there. So we're just going to send the same message, and boom. And now it should process that anytime. There we go. So now we've got, okay, so it says I'm publishing this weather control request. There is a trace for the post request that contains this. And then there is a, hey, I got this weather request, and then there's a trace for, oh, I got for our, this is the new trace that's coming from our worker service worker. So this one, we should be able to see, let's see what that looks like over here in Aspire. Yeah, so now we've got the weather control request receive. Nice. And this is our trace, and I think if we click logs here, yes, it'll show us now this one log is now shown as being like within that trace. So now it understands, this is now a more structured log where it was just like, oh yeah, I saw this thing before. Now it's happening within the context of I am processing this queue message. And I don't think that we're actually using any, I don't think I'm actually sending any like queue ID messages or anything like that. Let me see. Okay. So it's coming from web service worker. It's got a trace ID, but that's just generated, and that's it. Yeah. So like in our helper codes, we always have like, oh, this is the queue name, this is the queue server. We don't have this concept of a message ID, but yeah, that's really useful stuff to have. So let's just go ahead and add those. Oh wait, actually, I think the example code might do that. You might be able to do that. So if I go over here to the example code, does it set? Ooh, okay, so it sets the whole message. You don't want to do that. Let's see. Right. Okay. So this add messaging tags, I think this might be what I want. Yes, here we go. So, yes. The destination and the routing key. Yes. These are things that that we want to add on. So we can do this. One thing to bear in mind is stop this. One thing to bear in mind is that when you start a new activity in a worker service where you actually do that kind of thing, you don't often do that outside of a worker service. You can do it anytime, but like this start activity, it can actually return null. This is this is a nullable activity, and the reason for that is if no one's listening to it, it'll actually just return null, and then it's super super efficient. Okay, so I'm just going to add in some of these. Some of these are less useful than others, you know. I'm like, really? We're sending it to a queue? Yeah, we know that. Whatever. But let me see here. So messaging destination is always going to be localhost. Is that really what we want for on the receiving side? Yeah, so these are the different tags that, you know, by convention, it's a good idea to have at least some of these in. Oh yeah, so it's like destination name. And they have examples of like my queue. Okay. So I'm just going to say destination name and yeah, I don't even remember. It's been too long. I set all this stuff up in our common code years ago, um, and I don't remember which ones I actually ended up using. But okay, I think what we want is decision destination name for the queue. I don't care about the routing key. I'm going to say message destination name is going to be our queue name. And I do want also a destination would be a destination like I don't want like an IP address or anything, but okay, partition ID. Okay. Well, you can just say yeah, destination name should identify a specific queue inside the broker. So what we really want is like, where does the broker go, right? Doesn't say. Okay, that's fine. Whatever. These are by convention anyway. So I'm just going to say messaging destination. And I'm going to delete that one. Ooh, they have separate ones for RabbitMQ. Messaging destination name is the topic, or the, okay. Routing key, don't care about. Server address, there we go. That's what I want. Server domain available. Yep, that sounds good. I'm going to do that instead. Server address is just, and it's always localhost because that's how I have it set up here. Alright. So now this is just adding some additional information onto that span so that when you do things like Alex asks, how are the logs associated with the traces? So Open Telemetry, that's a good question. I think that they're added on as like semantic logging data. I think that there's a trace ID that it uses for that, although I'm not entirely sure on the details. So let's take a look. Wait for a second for this thing to pull up here. Okay, we'll send a message. Okay, so now I'm going to look at this new receive span, and now it has our messaging destination name. It has our server address. These are the two tags that I added. The rest of these are just added by the runtime. So like this telemetry SDK version, whatever. That's just added by the runtime. So how is this associated to a log, right? Or how are logs associated to this trace, really? And the answer for that one, I think, is so this trace has an ID. It's really hard to see on this monitor. I apologize. Trust me, it has an ID. And if we go to look at this log and we look at the details, it has a trace ID and a span ID. Okay. I think it's the trace ID that links it to this specific trace. And actually, I'm not sure what the span ID is. That might be an older... I think span ID and parent ID are like older versions of this. The whole distributed tracing thing has a lot of legacy in it. Yeah. So I think that those are more like legacy values and not really needed. I could be wrong. Um, but yeah, this trace ID, now this is attached to this log message. So it's not part of the log message, but it is some attached data to it. Um, and if you're interested in more on how to attach your own logging data, um, like for example, okay, so this date is pulled out of here. So this is using semantic logging. And this temperature is pulled out of here. Okay, and that's all we have right now in our post. In our get, I've got some other things. And this code, if you want to attach like your own things to your logs, you can look at the example code over here. Not over here, it's in the service. Sorry. Yeah, so in the service, anytime you get a weather forecast for a specific date, it's using this begin scope, and this is attaching a date requested tag to any logs that are logged in the rest of this method. So this log message here, even though it's passing in temperature, so it has temperature attached, but it also has this date requested attached to it as well. So if you do that, you can look at that in the logs. And then using something like Seek or Graylog or any other kind of modern logging system, you can actually like search for that. So for example, I can search for all the times when temperature is 77, and it'll show me all of the logs where temperature is 77, which is essentially all the requests I've done because I haven't changed that parameter. So these are like actually indexed, and in Graylog, which we use, um, they're indexed in Elasticsearch and it's extremely fast to search for different tags in your logs like that. Extremely powerful, especially like we have a user ID that we can just search for. So we have one central log where everything gets dumped into, one central log store, and then we can say, oh yeah, show me everything that was authenticated by this user, over this time frame or whatever, and it's extremely powerful. Or sometimes because we do have just one log store, sometimes we're like, oh, just show me stuff from this one API and this one user over this time frame. So you can do really powerful searching through your logs. Very, very much more powerful than just text searching. So this kind of structured logging really gives you a superpower when you're trying to track down issues and stuff. And okay, so I think I just gave a whole talk on that Tech Bash. Okay, so that looks good. We've got our trace now on the worker side, which I enjoy doing. I like having the tracing there, and then also another thing that I like is having like this kind of information, like what queue did this come from, and what server did this come from. We should add this to our logs too. So right now they're getting on the traces. So the thing is, with in the real world, a lot of times your traces have to be throttled or sampled because it's just too much information. But you usually don't throttle your logs. Okay, you usually don't restrict those. So I often find it useful to also add this information to the logs. So here I added it to the traces. Let's do this. And here I'm going to add it to the logs. So I'm going to say, so this is my logging scope, and I want a logger. Wow, that's pretty good, although I don't want the trace ID. That's the wrong thing. You know what I really want? I'm going to use I've got a package that makes it a little bit easier to work with this. And that's not going to find it. There. So if I install this, Then I get a begin data scope, which is not currently in scope. Alright, and then I can pass in just like string value parameters. So this would be like Q server is going to be localhost. Again, that's hard-coded. Don't really need that one, but whatever. And then Q name is coming from this one. And now this is going to attach the Q server and Q name scopes to anything that gets logged down here, including this log information. All right. And then the runtime, when it logs this log information, it just says, is there an active activity? If so, just attach a trace ID to it also. So that's kind of like implicitly done for you. Okay, so now this consumer is now looking about what I want it to look like. I also want, okay. So what I want to do is, at this point, I'm not sure if I have time for this next step. I have a dentist appointment I have to go to. But my next step is I'm going to orchestrate in a MySQL server, and this is going to become, so now this queue is going to become a long-running operation, and the MySQL server is going to act as like as our storage for, here's the stuff that's in process. Here's where you can check the completions. Do I really need that though? MySQL is more realistic. Redis would be easier. I'm going to do MySQL, I think. It is more realistic. So let me save this here. I don't even remember what the latest changes I made. Okay, yep. Add tracing and log scopes to worker. Okay. Alright. So I'm going to see how far I can get in the next 10 minutes. I want to add... I can't do that yet because I have to add a... I always right-click dependencies and it's not there. You have to right-click the app host to add a .NET Aspire package. Seems a little bit awkward there. Okay. And then I want MySQL. Good. I was really hoping that they supported that. Alright, let's see what MySQL looks like. Add MySQL. What you gonna do? Just a name, password, and a port. Sounds good. Alright. We will do the database. I'm going to add a parameter, password. New password? Probably should. Password. Oh no, sorry. It should be SQL password. And a port number. MySQL default port is... Who can remember these things? I don't know. What's the MySQL default port? Google? It's 3306, Steve. There. Alright. I think that's on... Oh, right. I have to actually add the MySQL password to my parameters in here. I wonder what I should call it. I think the default username is root, so I'm going to go with the default password of root because this is super secure. Can't guess that one. Alright. What happened? Okay. Database should be running. Let's see if it works. Here we go. showing the database as starting. Good, I can view the logs here. You know, I don't even know if I have... I don't think I even have the MySQL Workbench on this computer. I do not. Okay. Well... Probably won't need it. Might need it. We'll see. Okay. I'm going to pop open this... it's probably downloading the whole, you know, thing there. Docker container. Alright. Let's see. I want to see. I thought I had that open. Must have closed it. Okay. So let's see. .NET Aspire, MySQL. Yes. Okay. Good. Then they do have the ability to add databases too. That's useful. Alright. Good. I'm going to do that. Hasn't even started up yet. I'm already going to change it. Oh, so it's running. Okay. I just need to refresh or something. Okay, ready for connections. Looks good. Definitely running in Docker. Alright. I think it just took some extra time there because it was downloading the Docker image. I've got to run MySQL locally here. Alright, so this... Can I add database? Nice. Okay. Cool. Alright. So I can add a database to this thing. I'm going to call it, so this is main database, right? I don't know what it's called. Oh no, I know. I'll call it messages. No, I don't want to call it messages. I want to call it, work, I guess. This is like in progress work, right? It's not actually the messages which are going over RabbitMQ. Okay, cool. So let's see if... Can we connect to that thing? Alright. Then I'm going to want to create... Let's do this. Add MySQL database. And now it's being orchestrated. It's being brought up. I haven't actually connected to it yet. It'd be great if I could do that quickly before we go here. So Bradley has a MySQL connector. Yes, this one. The one that everyone actually uses. Okay. And let's see. Yeah, here we go. Logging, tracing, and metrics. Nice. Okay. Oh, I see. Okay, so you have to tell it to use the logger factory. Alright. Might skip over the logging for now, but here we go. We want to add a source called MySQL connector. That's easy enough. Alright. Okay, cool. So, yeah, this is the modern MySQL connector, not the official Oracle one. So let's go ahead, because I want to be able to pull. Yeah. So when we're putting something in the queue, what I want to do is first like insert a a row into a database and say, here's this Yeah. Okay. Here's this work I want you to do, and then come here. No, not that one. This one. Not that one. This one. Trust me. Okay. All right. Yeah. So I want to insert a row into the database, saying, yeah, essentially just like, here's the work in progress. Right. I'm starting this work. Insert it into, well, technically, well, okay, we're not going to do the whole bridge pattern here. All right. Or should we? No, we shouldn't. It's just too complicated. So I'm going to insert something into the database saying, here's the work I'm planning to do. Send it to the RabbitMQ. The worker is going to pick it up from the RabbitMQ, post updates into the database, and then eventually complete it. Yeah. And that should be it. Yeah. And then I want to also add in Redis too. This might get a little bit too complicated. We'll see. Oops. But I want to um, at least do that. So let's see. I'm going to have a database service here. And this thing, do that. I should just change my templates and then they would stop bothering me. Alright. So what I want is... not terrible, not terrible. Wow. That's not terrible code, actually. Let's see what that looks like. Alright. Oh, yeah, sorry. Tracing. Let's do that first. We want to also add the source for the tracing. So this is add services. Right. Add Open Telemetry with tracing add source, not Web API, but MySQL connector. All right. So that'll give us those MySQL traces, which are really nice. Okay. So back to here. Really, what's the minimum we need to really like get this thing going here? This, yes. Okay. Just gonna copy that. So we're not taking a connection string here. Instead, what I want to do is have a connection. I think this is going to be root and root. And the database is going to be work, I think we called it. Alright. Okay. And yeah, there's actually, because it uses connection pooling by default, we could just new up a connection each time, but I'm fine with this. This is now disposable. Alright. Okay, we're going to open the connection, and then, yeah, not going to use that. Alright. Now, okay, so we've got the connection already. Yeah, so what we're going to actually have to do is create a table if it doesn't exist. This is where it gets kind of awkward, a little bit not as realistic. Actually, let's do that up here. So let's see here. This is our schema command. We're just going to new up some schema here. Yeah, perfect. Create table if not exists. This is going to be requested work, and it's going to have an ID, right? Oh man, let me think. So what do we want? We could just do like an auto increment, right? Is there syntax for that in MySQL? Auto, yeah, so it is an int, not null, auto increment. That sounds good. All right. So this is going to be the work ID. I'm just going to call it ID. And then this is, we don't really have like message identifiers, so to speak. I'm just going to say, yeah, status being a text. And we're going to call this good enough. I'm not going to make this like really production ready here. Okay. And then we want to execute that. Alright. So that'll just shove our schema out there. That's fine. Now I want to insert into... Okay, hold on. So this database service, we're going to do start new requested work. I'm going to say insert requested work. And really, that's all it is. We're not going to take any parameters here. Again, yeah, you might want to in the real world, but I'm not going to here. Okay, so we're going to create a command, insert into requested work, status. The value is going to be literally just requested. Alright, and that's it. And then, I always remember how to get it, or I always forget how to get it out. Because you have to do like a single row select or something really funky. MySQL just isn't made to, or SQL is not just made to be easy. Enter into blah blah blah. No, don't want that. This is like the next auto increment. I don't want that at all. Obtaining auto increment values. Thank you. Yeah, select lax insert ID. That's what it is. Thank you. Okay. Alright, sure. And then we have another command. Might be a way to do this both in one. I'm not sure. Hey, good job, Copilot. I should just have you do it. Perfect. Alright. Really, these should be asynchronous, but do I care that much? I do. Make it async. How about this one? Can I execute scale async? Okay. You betcha. That is really dangerous. It'll, oh yeah, it'll actually convert a task. That's, oh well. Okay. So I think this should work. This should work. If I pop over here to my controller, well, no, actually I want this to be part of my weather forecast service, don't I? No, it is in the controller. Yeah, because I'm posting here. So, we're going to add in a database service now. And I'm going to, before we publish that, insert requested work. Yeah, good point. Yeah, I'm going to make this instant task now. And this is going to be our work ID that we're going to get back from this. And that's going to become part of our message also. What is a worker service, AJ asks? So a worker service is, it's actually, so if you look at the worker service template, which is what I'm using, it's actually just a console application, but it uses the .NET Core like host builder and stuff like that. So you get dependency injection, and yeah, that's about it. But it's like a modern kind of console application that's made to run in the background all the time. So you can run it as a console app, which is what I'm doing here. And if this is what you're going to do if you're going to like containerize it or something. There's also an option you can just say you can do, I think with, I don't remember exactly how it works, but there's a way to say, oh, use Win32 service hosting instead, and now it's a Win32 service, or use Linux daemon hosting instead, and now it's a Linux daemon. Okay. So there's ways to do that. Right now I'm just using the out-of-the-box worker service, which is just a console app, which you would either run, which is what I'm doing, or containerize it. But it's essentially a console app that's made to just continue running, usually, although they don't have to. Anyway, yeah, I tend to use worker services instead of console apps all the time these days because, like I said, you get dependency injection, all that stuff just built in. All right, so I wanted to change this message real quickly. I'm just about out of time, but let's add in a work ID. Okay. Now, I have to pass in this work ID here. And other than that, I think it should all just work. I mean, you know, maybe I should have used Redis after all instead of MySQL. Well, it's fine. Okay. So, I've got that, yeah, Redis is a much better solution for this kind of thing. I'll change it later. For now, let's just see if this works. Curious to see how the database works. Never used MySQL with. I like MySQL though because of those spans from the MySQL. Ooh, what is this? I don't know what this is. Oh, okay. So it's a separate resource for the database itself. That's interesting. Okay, so here's like the database server. Here's the actual database. Interesting. I wouldn't expect any logs from the database. I don't see any. Okay. We got logs from MySQL though, saying it's ready. Alright. Oh right. We can't actually send the request until RabbitMQ is ready also. And that is the one that historically has taken a little bit longer here. So let's just look at our sequence. Okay, it's waiting for messages. It is ready. So let's go ahead and send one and see what happens. What? An error. That's what happened. Okay. I'm able to resolve. Oh, duh. Alright. I didn't actually add it to my dependency injection. Let's do that. Thank you, Copilot. Alright. So Seek should start streaming these logs. Everything's starting up. And I have to go, my wife tells me. I do. I have to go to the dentist. I just have to try this, see if it works. One more time. Sending a request. Boom, okay. Unable to connect. That's because it's connecting to my server instead of localhost. Okay, I'm going to change this. I don't have time to stay here anymore. But use MySQL. This code may not work. You are welcome to try it if you want. I'm going to push it. But I got to get going. I will, yeah, we'll resume work on this another time. But thank you all for coming, and have a great day. That's the wrong monitor. Here we go.